Story 1. I used to donate every 8 weeks. The second time I lost consciousness, the paramedics told me I should find another way to give back to the community. Story 2. Wow, I had no idea this would resonate. In my situation, I am only affected if I look at blood leaving my arm. The needle doesn't bother me. It is all about seeing. After I've seen, I swear that I can feel the blood draining out of my body, and that feeling concludes with me passing out. When I get blood drawn, I let the person know, and they are always great about dealing with it. Story 3. I live in Dubai, but I grew up in the United Kingdom. I was born in the 1980s when there was an outbreak of variant Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, commonly known as mad cow disease. As a result, I am not allowed to donate blood here. I used to donate every 6 months in the UK. I want to confirm that I did not have variant Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, but I grew up during the epidemic in the United Kingdom. Story 4. My veins make it difficult for doctors to find a suitable one whenever I need a blood test, which has discouraged me. Story 5. I am below the minimum weight. I believe they have to take a uniform amount of blood from each donor, so I suppose I do not have enough blood for it to be safe. Story 6. Fear of needles combined with a difficult experience in the hospital has left me anxious. My intravenous line got infected, and they had to attempt 8 more times to get it back into my arm. Given the size of the needles and the method they use, I worry that my arm could be severely damaged afterward. Story 7. I keep trying, but they don't want it. They kept telling me it was inappropriate and wouldn't stop asking me where I got it or why I had so much of it. Do you want it or not? Story 8. Being chronically low on hemoglobin means there is about a 50% chance I will be turned away at any given time for that reason. Story 9. I have a rare blood type, and I'm on several donor registers for bone marrow and similar causes. I received at least 1 email, a text message, and occasional calls each week asking me to donate blood. I enjoyed doing it and was happy to help, but some months I just didn't have the capacity to drop everything and find a local donation center. Eventually, I became overwhelmed and started sending their emails to spam, blocking the numbers that texted me, and not answering calls from unknown numbers. I'm not sure if that affects the bone marrow donations, but honestly, I felt so harassed for my body that I couldn't take it anymore. Story 10. I was on a drug therapy that is on the ineligible list for almost 12 years. I am no longer on that regimen and have resumed being a blood donor. In fact, I am scheduled to do my second double red donation of the year in a week. Story 11. I used to donate blood in high school, but a few months into my freshman year of college, I nearly died and learned that I had a rare blood disease called AHUS. I haven't donated blood since then, and it makes me sad because I wish I still could. Story 12. I used to be a frequent blood donor and was on the Red Cross's list. However, after being diagnosed with stage 3B Hodgkin's lymphoma, I can no longer donate due to the restrictions for those who have had blood cancer. It's challenging because we have blood drives at work, and well-meaning colleagues often encourage me to participate. I prefer not to disclose my medical history and feel judged for not being able to take part. Story 13. When I was younger, it was due to chronic anemia. Now, I have scarred kidneys from a past illness, and I was advised not to donate, as it puts too much stress on my kidneys. I am very grateful for those who donate, as I received a blood transfusion when I was ill. Story 14. I tried to donate blood a few times in the past, but I always struggled to fill the bag to the required level. The last time I donated, I couldn't meet the minimum volume within the allotted time. The phlebotomist had to disconnect me and apologized that my donation would need to be discarded. At that point, I decided that blood donation was not for me. Story 15. I feel nervous for some reason in a medical setting, so my heart rate is usually too high, often exceeding 100 beats per minute. Story 16. They said I was too small and might pass out. Like, I'm just trying to be a hero, not star in a dramatic hospital scene. Story 17. I have a vasovagal response and often pass out or nearly do. I tried during the early days of COVID and experienced it 3 to 4 times, but each time near the end, I passed out or felt extremely ill. I really wanted to overcome it, but it kept happening. Story 18. I have had a blood transfusion. In the UK, This prevents you from ever being able to donate blood due to the risk of transmitting variant Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. Even if that rule did not exist, I have an autoimmune condition that causes my body to destroy my red blood cells, so I cannot imagine my blood would be very helpful. Story 19. Sleeping with foreigners. I slept with a doctor from Thailand, and I received a 12-month ban. Story 20. I have never tried, but I suspect that having cancer 5 times might prevent me. Additionally, I sometimes pass out during blood draws. Story 21. I had blood cancer and donated a lot before that because they said only 1 in 67 people had my blood type. Story 22. Thalassemia is a genetic form of anemia. My red blood cells are smaller than normal, but I produce more red blood cells to carry oxygen throughout my body. It also results in low iron levels. Story 23. I last donated blood in high school to skip a class. They took my blood, and then a week later I received a letter saying I tested positive for HIV and they would not accept my blood. This really frightened me, so I went to my doctor and had a blood panel done, which showed that my blood was perfectly fine. They said it was a false positive, but that experience gave me a significant scare. Additionally, they disposed of my blood, so I am not donating again since I do not know how much of it they waste. Story 24. Scarring on my veins from past donations. I have donated over 100 times, so I try not to feel bad about the fact that I am apparently done now. Story 25. I was in Germany in the 1980s when mad cow disease was a concern. They do not have a test for it, so I cannot donate. Story 26. My weight is very low at 43 to 45 kilograms. To donate blood, you need to weigh at least 50 kilograms due to the volume of blood required. I really want to donate, especially after my grandfather passed away from leukemia without any palliative care, but I am not eligible to do so. Story 27. I am very annoyed by the constant calls and emails I receive regarding my blood type. Harassing me nonstop is not how you will get me to cooperate. Story 28. I paused for a while because I wasn't allowed to donate blood anymore due to the tattoos I got in Japan. Later in life, after donating many times, it started to interfere with my recovery and gym sessions. Even donating on a rest day became problematic because of how heavy I was lifting and how physically active my job is. Story 29. I was a heavy drug and alcohol user. I am now 7 months sober and pregnant. Perhaps I will consider it in the future. Story 30. I was on deferment from 2002 to 2023 because I lived in Europe in the late 1990s. They lifted the deferment, and I was back donating blood the next week. A friend of mine, who is in her mid-30s, is battling cancer and needs platelets. I give as often as I can because even if it isn't going to her directly, it helps me feel like I'm making a difference. Story 31. I tried donating once but passed out the moment the needle went in. The needle came out of my arm while I was unconscious, and I woke up covered in blood. The nurse kindly said, "I don't think this is for you." Story 32. I dislike needles and my arm felt odd for a month. Additionally, the Red Cross continues to contact me afterwards, even though I have repeatedly requested to be removed from their list. They were not the direct reason I changed my number, but when I did for another reason, it was a huge relief. Story 33. I learned that the blood bank I was donating to refused blood from gay individuals because of HIV. Even though straight individuals can also contract HIV, all donated blood is tested for the virus. This situation really upset me, and I haven't returned. I know I should donate elsewhere, but I haven't figured out where yet. Story 34. This is selfish, but I have donated so much that there is a noticeable mark on my arm, and it looks bad. Story 35. Bad veins increase my fear and anxiety during every blood test, making my veins even more difficult to find. I was honest in the interview about my cannabis use, but they denied my eligibility. Story 36. Being bisexual, men who have sex with men are banned from donating blood in Germany for 1 year since their last sexual activity, down from a lifetime ban. Story 37. I lived in the European Union during the 1980s and cannot donate in the United States due to the possibility of mad cow disease. Strange. No way I have mad cow disease. Story 38. I donated blood once when I turned 18 in high school. I don't know what happened, but it felt like I got punched in the stomach. I was pale and soaked through my shirt with sweat instantly. I feel bad because anyone can use my blood, but I don't want that to happen again. Story 39. Small veins have led multiple nurses to tell me that it is just not suitable for me. They said that if I were in a serious situation, they could proceed, but for general donation, it is unnecessary and safer if I do not attempt it. Story 40. Trigger warning. I have an all-encompassing fear of doctors approaching me with needles. I don't fear the needles themselves or the blood. I have been to therapy and can now discuss the reasons behind my fear. When I was 6 years old, I was sexually assaulted by a National Health Service vaccinator. There was a female nurse in the room who did nothing to help me and attempted to prevent my mother from reaching me. When my mother finally got to me, she demanded to speak to the person in charge, and when she complained, she was told that she had seen things. This was in the 1990s when doctors were perceived as infallible. What my mother witnessed is not safe to detail here, but I will say that my underwear should not have been around my ankles for a vaccination delivered in the arm. I don't actually remember the incident itself, but it has left a profound impact on how I perceive the care I receive from nurses and doctors. I believe in organ and blood donation, but I cannot bring myself to participate. Story 41. I have managed to overcome my fear of needles and the hassle of getting to the donation center several times. Story 42. Hepatitis A as a young adult. I was told I could never donate blood because antibodies will exist in my system forever. Story 43. Terrible bleeder. I have small and deep veins, and after half an hour, when they have to unhook me, I usually end up with only 10% of a useful donation. After the third time, I received a gentle phone call expressing their appreciation for my intention. Story 44. Apparently, you cannot donate blood if you have had cancer, which is a shame because I have O-negative blood, the universal donor type. Story 45. My dad was in the military, and we lived in England for about 5 years, from 1987 to 1991. Because of this, they believe I have mad cow disease, which makes me permanently ineligible to donate blood or plasma. However, they will take my organs when I die. Story 46. My schedule is limited as I live in a rural area, and services only come here every few months. If I'm working during that time, I cannot go. Story 47. I give blood and plasma. I need to go back, but I fainted last time and ended up flipped upside down in the chair with the nurse holding my arm up to keep the needle in place. I will go back, but on my own schedule, not as soon as they keep texting me about. Story 48. Mad cow disease. I was born in Europe and was previously ineligible, but I just searched for it and it looks like I am now eligible. Story 49. My iron levels are low, and I have low blood pressure. I have been rejected 4 times. I just want to be able to donate. Story 50. I am 1 donation shy of a gallon, but my hemoglobin has been just under the minimum for the past year. I have been taking a supplement for 30 days now and will have blood work next week to determine its effectiveness. Story 51. I lived in the UK in the 1980s and 1990s. I couldn't donate blood because of getting tattoos. Then I moved to Australia, where there was a blanket ban on blood donations from anyone who lived in the UK during the bovine spongiform encephalopathy crisis. They've changed the rules recently, so I can now donate. I've just never gotten around to it. Story 52. I donate from time to time. I also run frequently, and I've noticed that it takes me about 1 to 2 weeks to fully recover and feel normal again when running. I try to boost my protein and water intake during that time, yet I still feel off. It won't stop me from donating, though. Story 53. My weight is below the minimum requirement, and I also have an autoimmune disease called hypothyroidism. Story 54. They wouldn't accept my blood until I had the results of a pending scan. It was thought to be nothing, but the scan was precautionary. Nevertheless, they take 0 chances if there's a single question mark about your health. Story 55. I found out that they do not really need certain uncommon blood types, so you should call first. Every time I call, they already have a surplus, and it can only be kept for a limited time. Story 56. Mild post-traumatic stress disorder. I put it in quotes because I am not sure what to call it. Long story short, when I was 10 years old, getting my blood drawn for the first time resulted in me going to the emergency room for about a day and a half after I almost passed out from seeing it happen. Story 57. I have been deferred a few times for high blood pressure, but that has not happened much since I started taking medication. A couple of times, my hemoglobin was just barely too low. I went to another donation a few days later, and it was fine. Last year, a ferritin test ordered by my doctor came back at 11 micrograms per liter, which is a little low, so he suggested I limit my donations to 3 times a year. Instead, I started taking more iron supplements and still donate about 6 times a year. Story 58. My locally owned place was bought out by Versiti. I had been going regularly since I was 17. With Versiti, I have never had a good experience. They use a larger gauge needle for faster donations, and it's never gone smoothly. They constantly pressure you to set up your next appointment, emphasizing that it's more important to have your next donation scheduled than to focus on your current donation. They stopped offering locally donated baked goods as snacks and now provide only a limited selection that ensures them some sort of credit. In short, it transformed from a positive local experience where I felt good about helping people to a corporate environment where I felt like just a number and was physically harmed each time. No thanks. Story 59. I was underweight for most of my life, and now that I am not, I am on medication that could harm the wrong person or the right person, depending on how you look at it. Story 60. Last time I donated platelets, I passed out in the recovery area and hit my head, resulting in a concussion. I experienced pain while thinking for 2 weeks and had to go home because it hurt so much. I should have sought help, but it didn't seem that serious at first. I'm concerned that my difficulty with word finding has increased, which makes me hesitant to go back, even though I really should. Story 61. I used to have iron level issues, but now I have developed neutropenia and am ineligible for treatment for the rest of my life. Story 62. Last time I donated, I received frequent telemarketing calls from the Red Cross, informing me about pre-scheduled appointments at different locations. This happened at least twice a week for a while and became quite annoying. Story 63. I will donate privately, such as if a family member needs a transfusion, but I refuse to donate to large organizations. Even though they test all the blood, they do not accept blood from gay men. Story 64. I want money for my blood. If hospitals charge patients for my blood, I should receive a portion of the profits. Story 65. I have donated for most of my life. I had 52 donations when my doctor advised me to stop due to ongoing issues with iron levels and fatigue. Story 66. For a long time, it was because I was stationed in Europe in the 1980s. Now that restriction has been lifted, I will be going to the next major event. Go Volunteers. Story 67. Having lived in the United Kingdom for 5 months in 1987, there were concerns that I had mad cow disease. This restriction was lifted only 2 years ago. I have been donating blood ever since. Story 68. I was previously unable to donate due to the potential for mad cow disease, but that restriction has recently been lifted, allowing me to donate now. Story 69. Simply the fact that I was not eligible because I lived in the United Kingdom between 1980 and 1996, when there were concerns surrounding mad cow disease. That ban was lifted recently, so I will probably do so in the near future. Story 70. For a long time, I dealt with issues related to mad cow disease. Then I overcame those challenges and donated blood twice before being diagnosed with hidradenitis suppurativa. Story 71. I had hepatitis C. I was treated in 2016 at the Cleveland Clinic Liver Transplant Center and have been in remission since then. I am still not allowed to donate blood. Story 72. I have received blood, which means I am ineligible to donate blood in the UK. Thank you to those who donate. I sincerely appreciate it. Story 73. Fear of fainting. I nearly pass out when I have to give a sample, let alone sit there and be milked. It is my only phobia, and I have no clue why. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.